Yes.
Fellow Toastmaster, welcome to our first meeting of the month of August. Actually, we are a small crowd today. We don't have any guests, but we have a full stack with 2 speech, table topics, and an evaluation sessions. So I'm looking forward for this interesting meeting. I just would like to remind you that we have another meeting at the same time in August under this virtual format. And as of the beginning of September, we will turn back to our normal time slot, which is the first and second Tuesday, the second and fourth Tuesday of the month at 12:15. And we will aim to move to an hybrid meeting where some people who may want to do their speech or join the meeting in the VIC in our normal meeting rooms will be able to do so. And people who will be also able to join the meeting through Zoom, like we're just doing right now. So Alois and I will work on the setup, but we will try to provide what we call an hybrid solution for our members in that context. And we look forward to see you on this. I don't want to take further the floor, and I would like to hand it over now to our Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Adat. The meeting is yours. Thank you.
Fellow Toastmasters, the absent honored guests, welcome. Today, as we said, we're having a mini meeting from the look of it. It's fully populated, but with much fewer people than we normally have, which has advantages too. So, first person I'll call on will be the general evaluator, whose key role is to assess how different functions are being performed. Our general evaluator for the day is Judith. Judith, would you please present your evaluation team? What did I miss, Maria Teresa?
It's actually Julia. Julia.
Did I? Okay.
I'm the general. Yes, I'm the general evaluator of today.
Julia, you're right. My mistake.
Great. And today we have a full team. The first evaluator is going to be Maria Teresa. The second evaluator is going to be Tristan. Then our counter is Ines. Our about counter is Melanie. Our timekeeper is Tristan. And I'm missing, who's the grammarian?
Ines.
It's Ines as well. Okay. So my job today will be evaluating the whole feeling of the session. And I'll give it back to you then, the floor.
Thank you. And with that very quick summary of the evaluation section, we'll move to the first part of our program, which is oh Christ on a Honda. Yes, madam.
I beg your pardon, I have a point of order. I think we should have Ines introduce the word of the day.
Go ahead, Ines.
Fellow Toastmasters, Toastmaster of the day. The word of the day is restarting. That has nothing really to do with only restarting your computer. It is a general word, restarting. And
thank you very much, Toastmaster Ines. And that brings us to a restart of the session. May I give the floor to the first speaker, Judith, who will be speaking on, oh dear, I'm afraid I don't have that bit. Judith, could you please introduce your speech? Sorry, your evaluator will introduce your speech. And your evaluator is Maria Teresa. Maria Teresa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the day. It is my privilege and pleasure to introduce the speech given by Toastmaster Judith. Her objectives are to write and deliver a speech about any topic to introduce herself to the club. The speech may be humorous, informative, or any other style that appeals to her. The target time is 4 to 6 minutes. The target time is 4 to 6 minutes. I return control of the meeting to our Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Adot.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Maria Teresa. And without further ado, I pass the floor to our first speaker, Judith Rodriguez. You have the floor, Judith.
Thank you. I will share my screen if I manage to do it. Do you see it?
We see it.
Yes, we
Yes,
do.
perfectly. Thank you.
Great.
Great. So good evening or good afternoon, everyone. As Maria Teresa mentioned, my name is Judith Rodriguez. You can call me Judith, as you please. So I'll be talking about myself a bit today, and especially how I got here. But first of all, I would also like to thank Maria Teresa for giving her speaking spot to me. So thank you. So let's start from the beginning. I was born and raised in Barcelona, Spain, in a very village-like neighborhood in the northeast part of the city that it's called Sant Andreu del Palomar. One of the things I like about this neighborhood is that there are no tourists, so it still keeps the original essence of the neighborhood. And as a famous singer-songwriter says, I was born in the Mediterranean. Here you can see the name of the song and the artist, in case you are interested. And I love living by the sea. It brings me a lot of peace. And as you can imagine, it's been a bit of a challenge living in Vienna, where I cannot see the horizon that often. But so far, so good. So as I said, I was raised in Barcelona, and there I did my studies. I focused on environmental sciences and energy engineering. And after my studies, I found a nice job, but I changed it several times as I wanted to try different things. But the effects of the financial crisis affected me, and I was unemployed for a year. And actually this situation, this bad situation, I turned it into an opportunity, and I decided to move abroad. It was a tough decision, but I had always wanted to move abroad, to live in Spain, and as my country wasn't offering what I was looking for, I thought it was a good timing. So I moved to the happiest country in the world at the time, which was Denmark. So I moved to Copenhagen to study a second master on climate change. And it was a really good experience because my English got better. I made a lot of new connections. And I even had the chance to go to Rwanda for a month to do the master thesis. And I also got in contact with UNEP DTU partnership, which was my first contact with the UN world. And after 2.5 years, I decided to move to Stockholm in Sweden because I found a very interesting job, and I thought it was time to move on, and the topic was really interesting. It was on wind energy. So I was happy to move there. It was also difficult to change again the country and everything, but I think it was also a good decision. I learned a lot, but at some point after almost 2 years, I needed something else, something different. So, and I have to admit that the weather didn't help much. Stockholm is a very dark country and there's no sun, so it was another reason why I decided to move. And that's how I came here to Vienna. And I've been here for more than 2 years. And I've been working here at UNIDO, and I feel that professionally I've grown a lot. And if I look back at my past, at these past 6 years, it's been a valuable experience. And I actually would never have thought that I would ended up working at the UN. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity. That decision that I took back then, it restarted my life. So of course, I'm very grateful, but I'm especially grateful to my family, friends, and boyfriend who supported me along this journey. It's a very short presentation of myself, but I would like to end with a picture of my bookshelves because I think that books tell a lot about a person. So here you have a bit of myself very quickly. Thank you for your attention. I actually didn't have the chance to see any color, so.
Judith, I missed some of your speech because my internet died. I don't know if you're done.
Yes.
Okay, bravo. We will take, fellow Toastmasters, a minute to make our personal assessments, do them using the chat, and give some feedback to Judith, not Judith. Sorry, I've gotten used to pronouncing J the German way.
As you wish. Judith, Judith, Judith.
Okay. The constant restarter.
By the way, if you haven't heard that song I mentioned, you should look it up on Spotify.
Okay. I noted the name of the singer.
It's a very known and traditional one from Spain.
Tristan, I hope you are timing
1 minute.
us. Thanks. Okay. And with that, thank you very much, Judith. We move to our second speaker for the day, Toastmaster Alois, who will be evaluated by Tristan. And before Alois makes his speech, I will ask Tristan to tell us a little bit about the objectives and whatever he knows about the speech itself. Toastmaster Tristan.
Thank you, Toastmaster Adult. Here we will have an experienced Toastmaster, a long-living Toastmaster, but who restarts on Pathway and who engage with his icebreaker. So the icebreaker is to learn about the person, and we will try to see the structure, the clarity, the visual, the eye contact of Alois' message, Alois' speech. And that concludes my introductions. Thank you, Toastmaster Adult.
Thank you, Toastmaster Tristan. And with that, I pass the floor to our second speaker, Toastmaster Alois.
Hurrah! I have a restart in my life. Can you imagine? Fellow Toastmasters, Madam Toastmaster of the day. In the background of the screen, you see a vintage radio. I'm nearly as old as this radio. I have also seen it when I was a small boy. And this one particularly lists many radio stations in Africa, some in Europe, but mainly Eastern Bloc stations, which is a little bit strange for me because I thought the Eastern Bloc was not accessible, or the Western part was not interested in listening to the information coming from the Eastern Bloc. Anyway, I will have a check on this to find out where this radio was used and why it looks different to that what I have seen. Mine had Radio Luxembourg on, etc. Yeah? So anyway, the whole story is now beginning at the time of the Cold War. I was born in 1958, and children and adults were all asked not to get into the ditch of the road because there the border started. Austria was fenced in from the Eastern Bloc, yeah. And now, as I was growing up with the border, and especially on the Iron Curtain, it is not so nice. It was a difficult experience. Now, then my parents moved. Yeah, the one thing which I forgot to mention, this, you are not supposed to be crossing this fence or this no man's land, because the soldiers were coming and picking you up. There were many people captured and never returned to Austria. They were treated as spies, etc. Yeah? Some were shot. They just broke the rules of the game. Anyway, my parents moved later on to another country, to another area which is called Styria, and next to it was Burgenland. And before Burgenland came to Austria, it was part of Hungary. So I was again on the border side. And of course, exposed to an area where there is a lot of various, a cultural mix. But unfortunately, the whole area was very rural, and you don't really socialize a lot because you have no transportation, you have a long distance to different places, and doesn't make sense when you talk to cows, yeah, because you have fields and farmland around you, yeah. And in that village where I was living, there were 5 huts, yeah, and maybe there were some kids older than me and some younger, but anyway, there was nothing to really mix, etc. Yeah. So this was another border, an invisible border. So you can hear already that I had to restart to overcome my borders, my visible and invisible borders. At a certain stage, because I was attending school there, I had a very horrible experience. Where did that come from? I was just the protected and admired son, and I wanted to help my father in preparing a speech, which he had to hold in front of celebrities and bee farmer colleagues. He knew his job, but he didn't know German well enough, the proper German. Yeah. So now that gave him actually a feeling of inferiority. And that, I think, is also something what I have, a little bit of inferiority complex, because you can't offer something what the society as widespread. Yeah? So you are an outsider. I helped him in that way that I wrote a speech for him, but like an essay. And that was a big mistake. It hurt my father, myself, because it was sort of a catastrophe. Yeah? And I still have the feeling that I don't like to write speeches. I have an attitude that people tell me that I open too many boxes at the same time. And that I have to start really learn now in that time of retirement. I had learned a little bit already in my work life here in Vienna. And when I started to come to work here, I was actually seeing once an advertisement from a Toastmaster club. And this was from a guy, and most probably Marie-Therese will know this gentleman. It was the editor of the then Echo magazine. And I feared that man because he was such an expert. Of course, I was not coming to these meetings, what he actually asked for people, yeah, this advertisement. Several years later, I overcome again my fear of going out when Maxa, another Toastmaster, asked me if I can join, if I want to join her meeting. Yes, why are you going there? What is your function? She said, no, I am the president. I was so surprised. A normal person can be a president. Look, we have now also a normal person as a president. He walks 1,000 kilometers. Anyway, so it was fun, but at the beginning it was actually shyness as well. Why? Because I know I'm already in the red zone, but I have to continue now because it was announced that it will take 90 minutes and the president said it's 60 minutes. Now, the reason why I was actually, the funny situation there I found was, oops, I am sitting now amongst ladies. The whole room was filled with ladies. There was only one guy, Otto. And then at the end of the meeting, as it's normal, guests will be asked. So I had to stand up and say something. And I started some words and of course could sit down, and I was happy that I could sit down because my escape was, hey, I want to become a member. Yeah? Since then, I am a member. This was in 2002. And yeah, I noticed that from Toastmasters, I learned, Toastmasters made an extrovert out of an introvert, people say, some, yeah. I don't think so that this is correct, but I learned quite a bit about certain things, but definitely not speaking. Definitely not making the full stop, yeah, at the end. As you can see, I'm already in the red zone. I'm still making no full stop. I just do that what I like. It seems that I don't like to write speeches. I will prefer more to do the work in the background. So that you have probably learned anyway from me. And now I use Toastmasters as a tool to overcome the social border again and to learn new things and old new things that stuff what I have forgotten already. So, hip hip hurrah, Toastmasters up, restarted. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Alois. Everybody gets a minute to give him some feedback on the things that Tristan mentioned earlier and any other points you would like to share with him. Use the chat.
Sorry, we're done. Thank you. 1 minute.
Thank you. Thank you, Toastmaster Tristan. You're really multitasking today. Restarting and starting and restarting and starting. Now, this brings us to the most exciting part of the session today. It brings us to the table topics, which are spontaneous bits of speech, 2 minutes long. And our table topics Toastmaster for the day is Melanie. So Melanie, I'll pass you the floor. Tell us what your format is, and you can take over the floor.
Thank you, Toastmaster Adut. Hello, fellow Toastmasters. Just a quick thought from me. If I had the chance, I honestly would want to be your Toastmaster, table topics master every week or every other week, because I find it to be something that's really fun. It brings out the spontaneity in all of us, and you don't have time to think. You don't have time to prepare a speech. You don't have time to research. You really have to be uninhibited and think about what you want to say immediately and have it fresh in your mind. So if you remember the last time I presented you my table topics, they were, as Maria Teresa would say, a bit religious. They were the 7 deadly sins. So I decided this time to keep it light, keep it fun, and give you 2 scenarios, 2 simple scenarios that you give me your preference of why you choose one over the other. So we're a small group today, and I have to call on even some of you who have a big role today, unlike my mentor Maria Teresa had advised me to do, because it won't be any fun unless we hear from at least 5 of us, even though I have 6 different topics. So I'm going to start with Yulia, because being the girly girl that I think she is, she can relate to this topic. Yulia, are you ready?
I'm ready.
You're going out to dinner tonight, okay? You're completely dressed, sweetheart. You have your hair done, you have your makeup on, and you're about to walk out the door. What do you take? Pumps or ballerinas? And why?
I'm sorry, what are pumps?
Julia, high heel sexy shoes or a ballerina.
Ah, okay.
Should I go? Let me go get a pair. I'll be right back. No, I'm kidding.
I know.
Pumps, high heels, stilettos, stiletto. How do you say in I
Oh,
don't know,
stilettos,
Spanish?
like the ones that are like very fine, like very thin. Okay.
Doesn't have to be so high. And why? Why?
And why? Okay. So I'm actually going for dinner tonight. And I did have the dilemma right now coming from my office. And I have, I'm not sure about the ladies at the IEA, but I do have some high heels stock. And you do think, okay, at a dinner, you're gonna seem more fancy and elegant, and you know, the sound of the shoes walking in the restaurant and everyone turning around. And you're
Sorry.
like, yes, I'm beautiful, I'm here to eat. And you have that like that presence once you enter the restaurant. However, all the way from the office to the restaurant, it does seem a commute because I need to go biking. And I'm the kind of person that even if I want to look very good, I do prioritize comfort before wanting to all the time look stylish. And I know it's not necessarily everyone's agreement, but I do find that ladies were many times pushed into always looking this perfect image every time we go out, every time we go to a dinner night, or every time we want to make an impact. And I believe that with the right presence and the right attire, you could still make an impact even without high heels. Because if you think about it, all the way walking through the streets of Vienna, there are these little cracks. So even outside of the VIC, there are all these little rocks that seem like an obstacle course. So you take all the time trying to not fall down, knowing myself that I always fall down and injure myself. I have bruises everywhere. Then I'm like, okay, this is gonna take a lot more effort than just having a ballerina, looking still good, hoping my date will look not only to my shoes, and hoping for the best. So Melanie, if you ask me what do I usually prefer going out the house, I would say ballerinas, because I can still look good and be comfortable.
Excellent. Thank you, Julia, for your honesty. But there's a nice saying in German, Schönheit muss leiden, which means beauty must suffer. So I think it's very practical to wear your ballerina, but make sure you bring a little bag with your pumps because you always want to pop out those legs, especially your calves. So
sounds good.
So for my next topic, I'm going to slide into something also very fun, another scenario. And I'm going to call on our Toastmaster, Maria Teresa. And Maria Teresa, I'm going to give you a scenario. You're coming upon a round birthday, and everyone knows a round birthday means a solid number. So let's say 30, 40, even let's dare to say 50. You're given a generous donation from some anonymous person in the amount of 10,000 euros. You have a choice. You can take 6 of your closest friends away on a wild weekend, flights included, and a really intimate weekend together, your choice where you want to go. Or are you going to throw that big bash? I mean, this is a round birthday, inviting all of your acquaintances, your family, your friends to really celebrate big. What are you going to do and why?
Madam Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, it's not about me. I mean, I know I represent longevity, but if I suddenly came into a windfall and a lot of money, I think I might take part of it and some of my best friends over and kick up our heels and celebrate and party and say, I've lived. But I think out of that 10,000 euros, maybe I might take 2,000 from my party and go over to Maria Hilferstrasse to a place called the Gruft, where they basically provide food for homeless people. You know, I'm very sorry, but I think all of us UN types are very spoiled. I think sometimes we ought to realize that there's a world out there that doesn't enjoy the privilege that we have. So I would take my money and try to do something good for somebody else and not just for me. And I only can tell you, I know somebody who every Christmas makes a Christmas turkey for these people. And he has shared pictures of me, and you ought to see the looks on the faces of these people who really don't expect very much. How much joy you can bring to some individuals with just a very little bit of effort. So I'm afraid it wouldn't be my friends kicking up their heels and all excited or traveling all over the world on flights and who knows what. I try to do something for somebody else. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Maria Teresa. I feel like a heel for asking such a question to you. But you know, with a party, then no one feels left out. So maybe you'll reconsider. Thank you again for your honesty, because it's always something very personal that you share with us. So my next topic, I'm going to call on our president, Tristan. Tristan, you have a very important meeting at work. It starts at about 10 o'clock in the morning, but you'd like to get some exercise in at some point of the day. So do you wake up that hour extra early in the morning and go for your walk, your run, or your workout? Or do you get to work earlier, prepare for your meeting, and wait till after the day has been completed to go for your run or your workout, and why?
Madam Table Topic Master. Doing a sport on a day where you have decided to do sports, it's important to stick with it. Would you do it before that important event or after that important event? Actually, the answer is not that straightforward. If I have an important event, like a meeting with the board, or where my whole attention will be driven for 3 hours, I actually would prefer to do it after the event as a way to relax and think about something else after the events. The problem is, at the end of the day, after long meetings, sometimes I'm tired and I might not do it. So if I decide to do it afterwards, 50% of the time I will not do it. If I decided to do it beforehand, actually I feel quite good, but it means also waking up early. And this is also a motivation that sometimes I like to do it. So 50% of the time I might not do it and might not wake up in the morning to do it. So, the real choice is that 50% of the time I might not wake up and not do the sport before, and 50% of the time I might not do it afterwards. So it means that actually quite often I might not do any sports before or after. And that might be the solution to the problem. Madam Table Topic.
Thank you, Tristan. I think any kind of sport before you do any activity is a release, and even after, because you calm down from all of that stress. So stay active as you are, and I'm sure you'll be successful with everything you do. So my next candidate would be Inez. Inez, I find that there's a very large generation gap, not only when you say that the youth of today are so different than when we were young. We do have some things in common. We actually all have cell phones like our children do, and we're always looking at them constantly. So my question to you is this. You have a meetup with your friends. You're supposed to be at a certain place at a certain time. You get to the location first and nobody's there. But maybe there was something lost in the translation of where we should meet and when. Do you pick up the phone and do you call them, or do you send a text, and why?
Madam Table Topic Master, this is a tricky question. I'm supposed to listen very carefully to what people tell me. In this case, where is the meeting and what time do we meet? So I'm actually required to listen carefully. And I noticed that is something which is an art. Listening to where to go, what time to meet, and actually also who would be there in the meeting. And I see that listening is really something which I miss sometimes in my own case, but certainly also with others, especially the younger generation. I feel that a number of people, young people who I know in my own environment, also in my work environment, that they are so taken up by everything should be on WhatsApp, everything should be written up, everything should be recorded. So nobody listens or try to really figure out all by themselves, what do we need to do? Where do we need to go? So this is an important lesson I'm taking away from the current generation. I'm really trying to set an example and try to listen, try to hear, try to express myself as much as possible. Very clearly, very clear when it comes to venues and timing or specific issues which we need to agree upon. I see that there is also a very good, with the younger generation, a very good way of handling also misunderstanding. And I think we can learn from them because they are easygoing. And in German, you would say gelassen. And that is something which I'm also learning as much as possible, not to hold on to things, not to be very rigid, but at the same time, be very clear on issues we have agreed upon, but at the same time, having fun and let go of things which are actually needing, things which are for us also important, but not really incredibly important sometimes. So that is my big lesson. Also for a meeting, which is a dinner or a party or whatever. Back to you, Mrs. Table Topics Master. Okay.
Thank you, Inez. That's very good insight there. And my last and final preference and why, I have to call on our last candidate that didn't have a full speech, but she's been doing a great job as the Toastmaster of the day, Adot. Adot, I'll give you the scenario. It could be a cold winter night. It could be a hot summer night. It's the weekend and you're home. You've had a nice meal. You've cleaned up the kitchen. You're ready to relax for the end of the evening. You're curling up on the sofa. What do you do? Do you turn on the TV and watch Netflix? Or do you grab a book and sit there and start reading? And why?
Madam Table Topics Master. Now that is the eternal dilemma of home entertainment. Do I read a book? Should the book be a paper book or an ebook? Or do I watch regular TV or Netflix? The only time that Netflix trumps the others is when there's a series that I can't resist. That doesn't happen very often, luckily. So most of the time, I tend to read a book, but it'll be a novel. It'll be most likely a suspense novel, because I love thrillers. And if I do watch a film, which would be, I suppose, 30% of the time, if I do watch a film, it's usually a drama, something about families or singles trying to recapture their freedoms and liberties and so on. So the dilemma for me isn't quite that big, because it's not so often that Netflix has a series that I'm really hooked on. And I always have more than 20 suspense novels in my Kindle that I can open anytime and dive into and disappear into and get completely engrossed in a crime scene or the DNA chase that they're doing, or the suspect serial killer, and all these things that just take your mind away from reality. That's how I deal with that dilemma. If it was my kids, however, Netflix anytime. Madam Toastmaster, Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Adat. I agree. Netflix is worth every euro we pay. And I think for 4 users, it's what, $15.99 or something? What a deal. So again, I do prefer books over TV, but that's just something that's personal to all of us. I have to say it was very fun doing your table topics this week, even though there was a small group of us. And I would be happy to turn the floor back over to the Toastmaster of the day, which is again Adot. Please send me your votes for who you think the best table topics speech was.
Thank you very much, Madam Table Topics Master, for inspiring us to speak without preparation. It's a real way to restart your mind. This brings us to the evaluation section of the meeting, and it'll be led by our general evaluator. Let me get the name right this time. Julia. Julia, you have the floor to make the assessment about how we've run our Toastmasters meeting today. You have the floor, Julia.
I would like to clarify, we're still missing the individual speech evaluations, correct? No.
As the general evaluator,
okay.
you make the introductions for each evaluator, including the ones who evaluated the speeches.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right,
no problem.
The first evaluator of our team is going to be Maria Teresa, who's going to be evaluating Judith about her icebreaker. Maria Teresa has from 2 to 3 minutes to evaluate, if I believe it's true. Maria Teresa.
You should give her the floor.
Yeah.
I give you the floor.
Okay, thank you, Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and our relatively new Toastmaster, who has just debuted with a bang. I'll tell you, I think it's quite impressive that you start an icebreaker with a presentation. Ordinarily, you do that much later in your Toastmaster career. I thought that was quite ambitious, but I thought you really succeeded at that. Now, I have to kind of get you on track, because I think you stumbled a bit at the beginning, because you didn't say fellow Toastmasters or Madam Toastmaster. We have to get these transitions right. And you're not the only one that's had trouble in this meeting. So when you are given the floor, you say, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. I loved your slide of the Ferris wheel. It was totally appropriate for the title of your speech, which is This Is How I Got Here. We all, of course, recognize those spokes of the Ferris wheel, and we know we're talking about Vienna. But you wove this tale of where you come from. I wish you would put the name of the song in the chat that I could also look it up. It was very quaint. It was very peaceful. Here you are in this little village with no tourists, but then you moved into the real world. And am I ever happy we had a financial crisis? Because maybe without the financial crisis, you would have never decided to move to Scandinavia and start your career in a totally different place. I found in the course of this Toastmaster speech, we found out quite a lot about you. We also found out that you're a positive thinking person. You took what could have been negative and turned it into a positive. You obviously were very well prepared. Your slides were fluid. They were absolutely gorgeous. They were beautiful to look at. And I did not detect any nervousness. Ordinarily in an icebreaker speech, everybody shows a certain amount of apprehension. I didn't notice that at well. I thought you had your nerves totally under control. But now I have to restart and show my fellow Toastmasters. I'd like to share the screen if I may, and show you, because I am restarting. I'm not used to this. I am basically, for the very first time in my life, doing an evaluation with pathways. So according to pathways, this is what I was supposed to be looking out for. Do you all see my screen? Just nod your heads if yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So what did you excel at? You excelled at communicating about yourself. And I think that's one of the hardest things. You weren't big-headed about what you've done, but you obviously are a very ambitious person. And I think you have joined Toastmasters also to prove something to yourself. You might want to work a little bit more on making it perhaps a little bit more informal. Some of it I thought was a little bit too structured. On the other hand, let me show you in this evaluation what else I'm supposed to be looking for. And my time is already up, I don't believe it, but let me show the others, because you also will be having to restart and start looking at pathways for your evaluation. I thought you were indeed quite clear. Your vocal variety was good. I didn't notice a lot of eye contact, but I think we all now in this day and age of Zoom are relatively challenged giving a presentation. I thought you were picking up at least on the gestures, although it's very difficult if we only see the top of you. Were you actually standing in front of a podium, we could have got more out of that. I think the audience was very keen. The audience awareness was there, the comfort was there, and most definitely the interest. Toastmaster, you're a valuable addition to our club. You've given the first, but I hope in the future we're going to be hearing quite a lot more for you. I return control of the meeting to our general evaluator, Toastmaster Julia.
Thank you very much, Toastmasters Maria Teresa. I may from now on start using the Toastmasters for telling the title of people, which I forget. It's true, we need to get used to it. And I'm always delighted of how insightful your feedbacks are. So a lot of learning every time you talk. Our second evaluator is going to be Tristan, who is going to be evaluating Adolf.
He's evaluating Alois.
Alois, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, Toastmaster Julia. Alois, I didn't see any introvert here. Maybe you were, but clearly you were really at ease at telling your story about your life and who you are. And I was quite impressed by how authentic you were and you communicate in your speech. You really have opened up, no sign of stress, at ease, and also in sharing things you learn about yourself in your childhood, but also in your more recent history about weaknesses and what you've learned from them. And ultimately linking those weaknesses to why you ultimately joined Toastmaster, following the story initially in your childhood with your father. And I thought that whole packaging of the story, how you brought it, starting with that radio in the background, bringing us back in the 50s, I thought was an amazing start and a very vibrant message. The second point I would like to say is I really appreciated your analogy with the borders. I thought that was a good catch from the beginning with the physical border, and then gradually moving on to the more social borders with the cows and with there, but also later on in your life. And I thought that a border analogy that you also used to close was a very good wrap up and structure, a fil rouge, we would say in French, throughout your story. What you could look at and think about it is working on the structure itself. You have a tendency, if you've seen, you don't know how much you spoke, but you spoke 10 minutes and 30 seconds, which is clearly above the 4 to 6 minutes. And I think is your passion, your enthusiasm gets you a bit over the board, and you let yourself talk. But as part of Toastmaster and as part of good speech, you have to try to contain that. And I think you can keep the same content and package it into a more into a 6 minute instead of a 10-minute speech, especially as you were sometime doing an aparté, talking a bit extensively about the situation and then coming back to a story. Maybe you wouldn't necessarily need to do that. And the thing you can work on it, even if you indicated you don't like to write a speech, is to try it once and record yourself once, and you will see how long you take and maybe what are the things, the good points and the good things you like less. But overall, well done, impressed, and I like when we can restart, as you have indicated, as part of Pathway and looking back at those elements. So well done, Alois, and I look forward. I've been in this club for 3 years, and I've very appreciated hearing you, quite a lot of you over the last 2 weeks. So well done, Alois. Continue that way.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Tristan, for your insightful feedback. Very positive and very intuitive to the little things that Alois was presenting us, especially about if you don't really like practicing or like writing everything, it's good to actually record yourself. So now we come to almost the end of our session, and our third evaluator is going to be our counter, Ines, who is going to tell us the and the fillers and all the little sounds we made to fill up the silence. Ines.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I would like to do two things. One is to give a report on as grammarian, because I have actually 2 roles, and also at the same time give my report on the R counter, if it's okay with you. If you are okay. I would like to start with an overall report about the use of English language. As far as I could see, perfect. I did not find any issues which were positive or negative or really amazing, really difficult to swallow as a grammarian. So I think that is my general, as a grammarian, this is really my general impression of the use of English language. I have listened to the fillers, and I put that in the R counter, and I'm coming to that. I would like to give specifics on a couple of issues, especially for the speakers. And I would like to ask Judith to perhaps in the next speeches to give an explanation about some wordings or some concepts she used. One of them were, for example, wind energies. As a specialist on energy, I think these are this is your daily bread and butter, and I think it's good for an audience, a larger audience, to give a little bit of a quick definition on what wind energy is, and I think also some other issues which came into your speech as specifics which we need to know about. Going now to Alois. Alois, I heard many times you talking about the Eastern Bloc, and if you were to give the speech to a couple of Icelanders mixed with some Bangladeshis who did not know what actually the Eastern Bloc countries are, I think it's good. In your speech, it would be good to have an explanation. Once you're talking about a group of countries which were politically grouped and well known as the Eastern Bloc countries. So that was just something I picked up. Another issue which I found was your formulation about, unfortunately, the area which we were living was very rural. And when we are using the word unfortunately, I feel that you are making a judgment. And actually you wanted to tell us it was an area, it was new to us, etc. So I think it's good not to make any judgment and even delete the word unfortunately. The area was very rural and it didn't give you the exposure which you needed at that time, for example. You also, Alois, opened a number of boxes, and you're getting from us, or from me, the crown as grammarian. Where is Maria Teresa? She asked me to look for a crown to be presented, to be given. And this is what I would like to do, give you the crown for a new way of what you actually wanted to say. You opened many Pandora's boxes, but what you used as a formulation was you opened new boxes. Bravo. I think that was very creatively put. Another formulation which has to do with the borders, social borders, and Tristan mentioned something about this, the issue of borders, which you wanted us to know about. I would suggest to use the formulation transcend borders. You wanted to transcend borders, not to overcome social borders, because it's just a matter of formulation. So I would use the word transcend borders, boundaries, sorry, transcend boundaries. I think these were my notes from the speeches I heard. I was not able to pick up on everything because it was so interesting that I just got totally carried away with the content. Coming back to the R counter, Julia, I have recorded 2 for you, Tristan 3. I see Tristan smiling. Adot 1, Alois 4, Judith 6+, which is for your first speech understandable because you need to pause and think before you give the your thoughts on the different issues. Maria Teresa, 0. And I also had a couple of them, 4. And that was my report for today as grammarian. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Well, thank you very much, Toastmaster Ines, for not having enough time to pick up on all the grammarian rules. I do find that you did find out quite a few mistakes we have made. And it's important because it's not only about little grammar issues, it's about the use of the language. And it's always good that there is external people who can hear us out and pick up on the little mistakes we're making. And then we have our timekeeper, Tristan, who he was completely multitasking. I love how the background changed, even he was talking, he was on point. And Tristan is gonna tell us if everyone was on time or not.
Thank you, Toastmaster Julia.
Julia.
And
Without the extra.
sorry. So in terms of timing, Judith did 5 minutes and 20 seconds, perfect. Alois went far beyond any borders and reached 10 minutes and 30 seconds. On the table topics, Julia did 2 minutes 20, Maria Teresa 140, Tristan 140, Ines 315, Adot 155. On the evaluation, Maria Teresa did 424 and Tristan did 333. This completes my report as the timer. Thank you.
Gracias, muchas gracias. And last but not least, we are going to have our ballot counter announcement from Melanie.
Are you all ready? We need a drum roll. So before I give you the final ballot count for today, I want to restart a thought that I saw this morning. And it's very simple. It says, you cannot fail at being yourself. And today, all of you, all 5 of you that decided to be spontaneous and uninhibited in your speeches with me were outstanding. But there has to always be one winner. And today we have, with 1 minute 55 in her table topic speech, Adot as our winner. Adot, congratulations.
That's a true people's vote. Thank you.
Amazing. So now as the general evaluator, I would like to say that we're a small team today, but it has run very smoothly. We had all the positions filled out last minute, but they were filled out. And generally speaking, I think I'm happy about today's session. So I'll bring back the floor to the Masters of the Day, Adol.
Many, many, many thanks to our general evaluator for managing that session with prowess. And that brings me to the end of my role in this meeting. I will pass the floor to our presiding officer, Mr. President, Toastmaster Tristan.
Thank you, Toastmaster Adot, for conducting our meeting today. You did a very good job. It went very smoothly and you led a great team. It was a small audience, but a productive audience where everybody had the opportunity to speak, take a role, and advance on their journey. Just to conclude, and trying to keep the analogy of our previous president, we heard about a Catalonian learning renewable in Scandinavia, but not speaking about borders. We heard about an Austrian sharing about the borders in his life. Finally, we heard from the table topic master the alternative options she faces in her life, but which does not necessarily are the alternative options other faces in their life. On that note, I conclude this meeting and I wish you a productive evening and a great week. and a great rest of the summer. Thank you to all.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Ciao.
Have a nice evening, everybody.
Ciao.
Nice evening.
Nice evening. I have to
Bye.
go for lunch and I'm going to wear my ballerinas.
Lunch. You're having an early lunch, late lunch. Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Alois, for everything.
Yeah,
Well done, the
Tristan.
recording, everything.
Yeah, thank you. Tristan, one question.
Yes.
What kind of tool do you use for timing? It seems that it's automatic. You just start one and then you don't have to take care.
No, I do it manually.
You do it manually.
I changed the virtual background in the back myself.
Okay, good. Then you are very
Dexterous.
No, but
Okay,
it's easy.
Dexterous.
Okay, thanks, you.
Okay.
good.
Fun
Okay.
meeting. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Stay safe. Be well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao. In 2 hours, you will have the records when we end it now.
What do you mean records?
Yeah, the video.
Records are LPs, Alois. Records.
Okay.
Okay.
Look, see, I misunderstand things. Record.
You're human. You're human. You've been in Toastmasters since 2002?
Yeah.
Wow. Long time.